but who better than me?
Welcome back to the much delayed return of the Femme Files. Now, I haven't done one in nearly 6 months, it feels like. It's at least five and a bit, coming up towards 6. I didn't intend to take this long to do another one. It's just that they do take a little bit longer than the standard videos to do. And a lot of the people that I obviously know a lot about are more sort of in the public eye. So I didn't really want to, go into, I guess, deep dives or backgrounds on people that we kind of already know. Hence why you haven't seen like a Katie Taylor or, someone like that. Even someone like Amanda Serrano and sort of those type of people. I tried to do it to sort of either the next rung down or the people just kind of breaking through. Obviously, sometimes it takes a little bit of effort to get footage of some of these people, find out their backgrounds and etc. So yeah, it's just taken a bit longer. I've been preoccupied with some other stuff, but there will be back on at least once a month basis, maybe even 2 a month, to incorporate the return of them. You're going to get one today, and there will be one on Sunday as well after the weekend wrap. So the one today, I'm going to focus on some people that are a bit more established within some of the lower weight divisions. But the one on Sunday are going to be names that a lot of people probably haven't heard anything of before, but definitely people to look out for. So with that being said, thanks for rocking with me. Apologies on the delay, and let's get into the first person. All right, so coming up first from the Femme Files, someone that you probably will know a little bit about. I know a few people watching this will definitely know a little bit about this lady. Competing in the flyweight division with a record of 11-0 with 4 KOs, Gabriella Fandora. Now, you'll probably know Gabriella because her big brother is Sebastian Fandora, who recently, unfortunately, suffered his first loss at 154 pounds. Now, he stands about 6'6" and he's 154. She stands at 5'9" in the 112 pound division. So as you can see, she kind of takes after her brother in terms of being one of the more statuesque athletes within the weight class. So she always has the height and the reach advantage over her opponents. But unlike her brother, she actually is a lot more competent at fighting on the outside. If you watch a lot of her fights, even though she does like to fight up close as well, she does like to collapse the pocket at times. She never really gives up her height and her reach advantage unless she's on what I would say the ascendancy, or unless that she's really confident in either being able to get the stoppage or hurt her opponent. Her jab is actually quite good for, again, someone who's obviously having to shoot down at her targets quite a bit. But yeah, she does throw very good straights. Unlike her brother, to be fair, she is a lot more effective from the outside. But again, she will quite comfortably move into the inside, work on the inside, use her, sort of a height and reach, and the fact that she probably hydrates a little bit heavier than some of the opponents that she's fighting. She definitely makes her size and her reach count when she's in the ring. So again, 11-0 with 4 KOs, it's about 33 something percent knockout ratio. I think she was born in Miami and currently lives in California. So definitely like West Coast fighter. So she's on that West Coast time zone. Fights the majority of her fights in and around, I guess, California and Vegas. I'm not sure if she's been on the East Coast yet. I haven't seen any of those particular bouts. But yeah, she's definitely one to look out for. She's steadily climbing up those ranks at flyweight, and I don't see it being too long before she is competing for a title. And again, just with her natural frame and her size, she can probably end up going all the way to super bantam, maybe even featherweight if she really wants. Because even though, yeah, she's slim, but there's definitely size to put on you know, she's definitely got space, so to put size on the frame. So yeah, definitely look out for Gabriella Fondora if you haven't. She's definitely on the ascendancy and one to keep an eye on for the very near future. Okay, so next up for this episode of the Femme Files, I'm going to stick with the flyweights, and I think actually for this entire episode I might just keep it in and around those weights, purely because that's where you get the deepest level of talent. That's where the most amount of competitors sort of come from. So on this one, this one's actually a bit more of a it's a quandary if you look at it that way, because they've actually had 26 professional bouts already, yet there's not a lot of people that would really call their name and, you know, really give them a profile. So I've decided that I'm going to do it on this particular episode. So the second person that we will be talking about today is Kenya Enriquez. Now, again, as I said, had 26 professional bouts, is currently 25-1 with 11 KOs. So 11 inside the distance. That works out to about 43% KO ratio. So not bad going. Kenya is from Mexico. She is currently, I believe, 29 years old. I'm not sure when she turned 29, so she could be on her way to 30 this year. But again, very seasoned opponent. If you know anything about sort of the Mexican fighters, very scrappy. She is very much a sit in the pocket and try and trade with you type girl. Never really takes a backward step. You know, she's not there just to sort of get hit to let shots off. She does actually tuck up quite well and stay fairly responsible. But she's yeah, in terms of if you want to watch someone that's all action, I would say Kenya is that from the fights that I've seen. Now, bear in mind, I haven't watched all 26 of her fights, so there could be some variation in there. But in terms of what people class as Mexican style, she definitely embodies that, in my opinion anyway. She's got some fairly decent wins on the record, and I think actually her best win happened in 2017. She hasn't fought a huge amount of times since then. I think it's maybe been 5 or 6, so she hasn't been as active as maybe she could be. But I think they're trying to ramp back up, and they're trying to sort of get some of these fights in moving forward. But she did face Jessica Neely Plata back in 2017, who at the time I think was 21-1, and I believe was either a champion or was on her way to winning a championship at that particular time. But that's definitely the best win on the record. There's been sort of a couple other decent ones, but yeah, if you're talking about standouts or ones that people may recognize, that's probably the one to sort of go back and watch. And having watched that fight, yeah, it was a very entertaining fight. So if you've not seen that, definitely do, because it will give you just a kind of an insight into what type of athlete and performer that, you know, Kenya Enriquez is. But again, as I said, hasn't been as active as maybe she should be, but ultimately have a look, see what you think. But yeah, she is the second person being highlighted on this particular video. Okay, and the last one we're going to have a look at on this particular video, again in the flyweights, is actually one of the champions, but probably not the champion that most people would know. Like the unified champ within the division currently is Marlon Esparza, who most people will know from facing Sinisa Estrada a couple years ago in the first ever, I think it was supposed to be a 12-rounder for the women, but 3-minute rounds. It ended up being ended in the 5th round, I think, due to a head clash, and they couldn't continue, so it went to the cards, and Sinisa won via technical decision. But yeah, I believe the last I think this person is the only other person that holds a belt at the weight at the moment at flyweight. So at 120, at 112, sorry, we're looking at Gabriela Alanis. Now, she's an Argentinian, is about 26, and she's got a record of 14-0 with 6 KOs, I believe. So, you know, not too shabby in terms of, you know, puncher. We're looking at maybe, what's that, about a 40%-ish rough KO ratio. Now, Alanis is a weird one in terms of she's a very hard puncher and she's very tough. Being Argentinian, they sort of are kind of historically known for just being very tough and durable. Not normally the biggest punchers, but very sort of durable in, you know, just nature. She's actually got quite a big punch, but the thing about Alanis that's a bit, you could say, like, she's actually a lot better than her record gives her credit for. And when I say that, I'm talking about the level of opponents. Now, you know me, I'm one of those people that very much, I look at the resume to determine how good you are. So if you look at her resume, it's not hugely impressive in terms of who she's fought. But when you kind of look at those people, there's a lot of losses on there, you know, sort of on their records. But then when you kind of look at who they've lost to, if you know the lower weights, you say, okay, they've actually all kind of lost to a lot of credible people and they've been in a lot of hard fights. So one of the good things about those lower weights is the amount of losses on the record doesn't actually mean as much as maybe when you get a bit higher, because all the depth is down there. So a lot of people end up losing to a lot of people. That being said, again, I'm not saying that she's got the greatest record, but there are 2 names on there that I want to highlight real quick. I've got one of them on the phone because I can never remember off the top of my head. I'm trying to get better at being a bit prepared. The name is Johanna Zaniga. She is, I think, is a South African lady. Let me just double check to make sure if it's South Africa. No, sorry, not South African. She's actually Venezuelan. My apologies. But Zaniga was actually was a decent up and comer at the time. She, at the time when they fought, her record was 16-1. So she, you know, and she had quite a big knockout percentage. I think it was like 9 KOs in the 16 fights. Since then, however, she was actually taken out in 4 was it 4 rounds? I think it was 4 rounds with Alanis. Yeah, it was in the 4th round, and I remember she was down in the 3rd, and then the ref stopped the bout on the 4th due to basically like lack of what they call it, lack of response. I think when she was like, you know, come forward, and she didn't really adhere to that, so waved it off. So that was kind of the initial sort of trajectory of sort of where Alanis was, you know, coming from, and that, I believe, was basically what got her title shot. I'm trying to think if it was a vacant one. No, it wasn't vacant, because the champion at the time was Tamara Elizabeth DeMarco, who was 10-4 at the time, and her KO ratio, she didn't have any KOs at the time, but she had been stopped once. Yeah, she had been stopped by Evelyn Bermudez prior to the Alanis fight, but she had fought Deborah Anahi Lopez to gain the belt initially after being stopped, and then basically she lost it to Alanis, and she was knocked down, I think, twice in the 1st round, and then her corner waved it off in the 7th. So Alanis won via TKO. Now, since then, she's had one fight against Deborah Rengifo, which wasn't particularly anything special. It was a routine defense. Deborah was basically like 18 wins, 9 losses. So, you know, Alanis doesn't have the biggest of platforms behind her in terms of getting I guess, the opponents with the sexy names. But, you know, she's a grafter. And she was supposed to be unifying with Marlon Esparza on April the 29th on the undercard of the next Williams Zepeda card. However, some kind of issue has happened in terms of a visa. She hasn't been able to get a visa for that fight, so they've had to postpone it. I think they're going to look to do it in towards the end of May or in June, when they can hopefully get the visa issue sorted. So not brilliant for Marlen, obviously, but that unification / undisputed fight is looking to, you know, to take place next. It just is going to take a bit more time. Alanis is a very dangerous opponent for someone like Marlen Esparza. But yeah, if you haven't seen any of her fights, I would definitely recommend watching those two fights in particular, the DeMarco fight and the Zuniga fight, as both of those will kind of show you, you know, sort of the grit and determination of someone like Alanis. Very much a mid-range fighter, doesn't like to stay on the outside, definitely likes to sort of stay within what we call the kill box and the kill zone, and make sure that, you know, basically her opponent has either got to work, your opponent's got to work, or the opponent's got to fall. It's one or the other. But yeah, definitely someone that I take interest in. And yeah, if you are interested again in any of these women's divisions, definitely want to take a look at. The one on that I do on Sunday is going to be more about prospects. There's 3 very big prospects that I do want to touch base on, and then there's a couple others which I'm going to probably do next week or the week after, just before I go away, where it's like they've been away for a little bit. I don't know where they've been at, but I need to see some more activity from them, but people that I've championed quite heavily, so you should know some of those names. So we'll see where we get to. If anyone wants me to kind of have a look at any of the bigger stars, please let me know on the channel. But yeah, I always want to kind of keep this more to people that don't really get a look in or profile anyway. Even if it's only like 10-20 people watch the video, if 20 people more know about someone, then at least I've done something. So that's how I look at it. Anyway, this video is done now. That's another episode of the Femme Files down, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching.